Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs. I'm myself, Erwin de Grave, and today we have the pleasure to talk to Steev Hodgson. Hello, Steve. How are you doing?
Guys, I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good, and welcome, Steve, as well, to be here today as well. Great. So, Steve, we could try to introduce you, but we are 100% sure you know yourself much better than we do. So, who is Steve? Where does he come from? What does he do in coaching? What does he do? How did he get into coaching as well? So,
Great. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks again, Erwin and Steve. So happy to be here. I got turned on to your podcast a few months back, and just a great joy to be able to be here personally. Just some quick introductions on who I am. So my name's Steev Hodgson, as you mentioned. I'm located in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I got into coaching about 2 years ago, actually, but really for me, the journey started once I got my official diagnosis around ADHD. So pandemic comes, we're dealing with some things, and my wife tells me, you need to figure out like what's kind of going on with you. Because I had times where I could just not shut my mind down. I was constantly overthinking things, constantly doing that. So I went and I got my ADHD diagnosis in 2020. The first thing that I tried was medication. So I go in, I get my diagnosis, they're like, here you go, and here's your prescription for Adderall. So I thought, great, this is going to solve all my problems. My problems are solved. I'm good. I'm fixed, right? And of course, that's not what happened. The medication actually, honestly, made my brain more foggy. I was not a fan of it. Medication's very tricky. It takes some time. I did get there, but it took me 2 years and partnering with the right psychiatrist who we could walk through and learn about side effects and also educating myself. So I started really educating myself on the medication and just learning more and more about ADHD. At that time, a book magically appeared in my Audible inbox called ADHD 2.0 by Dr. Ned Hallowell. Dr. Hallowell also wrote a very famous book previously to that called Driven by Distraction. That's very well used and very well known in the ADHD community. Dr. Hallowell had on a podcast of his, a coach, and that was the first time I really I've heard of life coaching, but didn't really know much about it. And I heard this person talking about strategies through coaching that she had worked with her clients. And I thought, wow, like light bulb goes on. I got to learn about this. So I joined that person's coaching practice. I started researching them. And that person's name is Kristen Carter. She has a podcast called the I Have ADHD podcast, and she has a coaching group called Focused. So I joined her coaching group and really decided, I want to do this. I like this. I like the idea of being coached. I want to be able to help others like me who maybe it took a while to get here, but now we're here. What can we do strategy wise moving forward? So I really started researching ADHD coaching. I took a specific ADHD coaching course and also went through the International Coaching Federation and to do their course as well. And for the last 2 years, I've been coaching and working with clients and just really get a lot of great joy out of it.
Oh,
Wow,
great.
nice. A question has come up for me. So I'm seeing a lot in the media about that sort of late stage or older age diagnosis of ADHD and things. What difference did it make for you to have a diagnosis? Because from the outside, like nothing changed except like there's a label or a title. Like for you, what difference did that make?
That's a really good question, Steve. Quite a few things. So for me, one, this is something looking back on it now, it's something I knew I had, but you just kept hearing more and more about. The first time I heard ADD, as it was called, like in the 90s, someone described it to me like I can read, I can pick up my daily newspaper and I can read all about the sport page and read things like that, but I can't focus on my chemistry homework. And so I have this diagnosis called ADD, and I'm like, what is that? Like I do that. That's not like, no, anybody can do that. That's normal. So the more and more I started hearing about it, then I realized that, okay, now here's a situation where the analogy that I like to use, and I got part of this from Hallowell's book, is if you go into a movie theater, there's those movie theater popcorn machines, and eventually you can manage it like, so someone goes in, they take the popcorn out, then they fill it back up, they take the popcorn out. Eventually the popcorn machine could overflow if nothing's coming out, and that was what was happening in my mind. It was just overflowing, and then I got a mess everywhere I got to clean up. So once I did get that diagnosis, it made a huge difference, because I'm like, okay, now I can look back and now I can see, okay, I have a reason for why some things might have happened or why some things might have slipped, but it doesn't necessarily make an excuse. But it did help me have some grace and self-compassion for myself. It took me a while to learn that, but I started learning, like, okay, let's say I was walking down the street and I saw someone with a broken arm, or they were on crutches. I would probably look to help that person out. But because this was happening in my mind, no one can see, and I can't even see it myself. I need to give myself more grace. I need to give myself grace. So getting the official diagnosis helped me then decide, like, okay, I need to give myself some grace. I need to come up with a plan, whether it's medication or eventually, like I did, working with coaching. So it was a big game changer. And it's also, to understand, like, okay, now with some strategies, I can control my brain as opposed to it controlling me. But on the flip side, I also had a lot of guilt and shame. Like, why did it take me so long to figure this out? I'm 48 years old at this point. Why did now I'm in my 50s, but at the time I'm 48. Why did it take me so long to get here? So sorry, a very long-winded way to answer your question. I hope you don't mind.
No, I really appreciate that. Um,
I
yeah.
got a question, if I may ask, because when I listen to you, um, it sounds like that I received a message that ADHD is negative. I do have it myself, so I've never been diagnosed officially. I do not want to go for a test, because it's what you basically said. It's being graceful to, or grace to yourself. It's really accepting it is. But the way that I hear that you talk about it, it's more, my sense, negative. But I've seen also so many positive things that ADHD can give you. What have you seen from that side for you?
Yeah, and that's a really great point. I'd like to think of it as neither a negative or a positive. It's just is what it is. Like it just is what it is. Like I have a broken arm. I'm on crutches. I have ADHD. That's who I am. It's like it just is what it is. A lot of people you'll hear things like determine, like I have, like it's a superpower. So that's sort of that positive. Like it's a superpower because I can hyperfocus. I can do things at the last minute, and it's okay. I can just get it done if I need to. So yeah, and I choose not to think of it as superpower, but yeah, I like to think of it as neither a negative or a positive. It just helps you understand yourself better. And I think understanding yourself better is a positive. I think that's a great thing. But yeah, there are so many great things about people with ADHD, and this is a perfect segue, if you don't mind me plugging my website. But the reason what I want to plug is the name that I came up with, and the name on my Instagram and LinkedIn, which is A Damn Healthy Dose, and it's a play on A Damn Healthy Dose is ADHD, and the reason why I came up with that was one of the things that we did at the first or second exercise that we did in the ADHD coaching was, what do you guys think of the letters ADHD? And every person in the class, or like 20 of us on the Zoom, raised their hand and said, oh, I don't like it. I hate it. I think it doesn't tell the true story of who we are. And I thought to myself, well, those letters aren't going to change. They've been around for a long time. They're not going anywhere. Like that's the name. And I thought, if there's a way to turn that in negative, because everyone says, well, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, you're time blind, you don't have certain things. if we can make a negative into a positive, so I say we're a damn healthy dose of creativity. We're a damn healthy dose of spontaneity. All the good things that we are. So, Erwin, you brought me right there. All those good things that we are, we're a damn healthy dose of them. So that's the way I'd like to spin that.
That's really interesting. I love that reframe. Hey, I'm in teaching a coaching course at the moment, and one of the participants asked a question about sort of self-management from an ADHD perspective as a coach. Um, Two questions, I guess, here. One, how does your ADHD and your owning it serve you as a coach? And what tips have you learned to be able to positively leverage that rather than to be overcome or distracted by it within a coaching conversation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It took me a little time to get there, and that's why becoming a coach takes some time. It takes some practice,
Absolutely.
and
For all of us.
honestly, it really, like I've said to you guys before we started recording here, I've done over about 1,300 different one-to-one coaching sessions. If I were to go back and listen to my session that I did, in June of 2023, it would sound like a different coach. I would be embarrassed for myself. In fact, I've done that. Um, but it takes, that's a muscle that needs to get exercise and needs to kind of refine. But what I have learned along the way is my ability to sort of hyper focus and block everything out and to really be there for the client, be client centric. And that's one thing that we learned, that I learned working with the ICF is that client first. And so if I make sure, what I try to do is right before a coaching session with a client, maybe I'll take a look at like some intake notes, maybe do things like that. But then maybe 5 minutes before, I'll do some breathing exercises. So that way, like I'm there, I'm like ready to go. And it's almost like, again, like an exercise, like you don't just hop in the pool and start swimming. You might stretch and do some exercising, or in your case, diving. But that could be underwater diving. But yeah, so I like to do something to get myself in that mindset first. But yeah, always try to remember client first. And above my desk here, I have a sign that says client first as well.
Awesome. That's really cool. Good advice for all of us, actually. I love the permission to be prepared rather than just sprint from thing to thing to thing, which in life we so often get caught doing. But actually, no, hang on. I'm choosing to be a professional. What does that mean? That it means I've got to do my warm up. I've got to do my prep. Now I'm going to show up ready to start rather than show up and then work out how to get ready to start. I really like that. And what in your experience, like you have a passion for serving and supporting people with ADHD. Um, what what inspires you about helping others on their own journey?
Yeah, I think, and this goes back to your question, your point, Erwin, is that for so much of my life, I didn't know, like I just thought this was who I was in a way, like I'm just someone who's particular about things, or I'm someone who's doesn't understand the concept of time. All those things that I just assumed that they were one way because that's the way society kind of tells us to be. And then once I really learned that about myself, and I'm like, wow, this is like I just uncovered so much more. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes. That doesn't mean I mean those things just happen. There's nothing we can do about it. Like I'll be late for things. I was 3 minutes early today. That sometimes that doesn't always happen, but that's where it is. It's like once the light switch came on for me and I realized how difficult it was for me. And because I can think back to things that happened when I was a kid in the mid 80s. And I get that sort of tunnel vision. I'm just focused on one thing, and then learn that and get in trouble with my parents because I forgot to tell my brother to pick up my younger sister at swim practice, and so she had to wait for an hour because I forgot to write it down. And I always assumed that I was a bad person for things like that. And now I realize that no, it wasn't. It was because of my mind and because I didn't have the tools then to really cope and understand who I was, that I didn't have the tools. So like now if I get something, someone tells me to write something down or someone tells me something important, I'll write it down right away. I know I have to do that. Um, so once those things and once I understand that, I don't want someone else to have to suffer the way that I did and have to go through things in life. I mean, I made things were tougher on me than I needed them to be. And a lot of that was my own fault for not understanding certain things about myself. But once I figured that out, that's where the passion kind of comes from. Like, I don't want someone to have to deal with what I had to deal with and have to go through some of the loss that's just unnecessary.
Mm. So you're just talking about it's your passion, it's going on. And what happens a lot of for a lot of coaches, their coaching is a passion, but it's also a business. So you've been
Yeah.
in coaching a few years, and I just want to jump over to a little bit about the business side because it's the business side is so important. So I don't know what you mentioned, what you've done before. I think you've been in tech sales for many years. But what has been that shift from you from corporate jobs starting as a coach, and how have you been setting up things correctly as a business owner or not? What are things that you've learned? What are things that have that you said, oh, if I knew that, that would have been different.
Lots of stuff I've learned on that side. It's not for the faint of heart, starting a business, especially in your 50s. It's difficult. But yeah, I had a career in the tech world in sales. I did that for 20 plus years. I had built up a pretty good size like nest egg and savings. So when I decided ultimately, I think when I went through the coaching program, I just knew I wanted to become a coach. I didn't know how it was going to work at that point, and I still had like my full-time job. So I would do the coaching classes at night and then kind of work around my full-time job. Um, right around right around this time in 2023, I remember I was dealing with someone, a client, and they were a particular really fussy client. And it was like a hamster wheel effect kind of kept happening for me. And it was like, okay, this particular fussy and messy client is now, making waves with senior management. And I thought to myself, I did everything right in this particular transaction, but it's constantly like this one thing. And, why am I doing this? I now have my coach certification. I just want to do that. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to turn it off. So I walked away from my job in 2023, and yeah, I'm coaching ready for business. Clients are going to come walking in, right? Right? I just open the doors and they show up. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Now, I was very fortunate and very lucky. Luck favors the prepared, as they like to say. But I was also very lucky in the fact that one of the organizations that I did specifically for ADHD, they had over 900 members in the just getting coached, not necessarily coach training, getting coached. So they needed coaches to work with them. So I was doing a lot of one-to-one coaching with that group. So that kind of helped get myself set up there. And then for a while there, like I was one of the only folks actually doing it for that group for a good 6 months. So that kept me really busy. But yeah, a lot of the other things like, okay, how do I get clients? How do I do that? And so one of the things for me that helped me was I realized that someone like myself is my my client. It's like my ideal client. So like someone like me is my ideal client. Now, we're all men here on this call. We're all guys. The other thing about guys, especially ones with ADHD, we're like, we don't need help. We got to figure it out. We got this. We're good. We don't need help. We got to figure it out. So that's another challenge. But what I did, one of the things that I did to help with the business was I started advertising on podcasts that I listened to. So like podcasts that I listen to for maybe sports or entertainment, or there's a group of professional wrestling nostalgic podcasts that I like, and I advertised on them. And I started getting clients that way. I started getting clients that looked just like me, it sounded just like me, and went through the same things. And it was really helpful. But yeah, it's a never-ending challenge. I've pushed myself to try to appear on one podcast a month. I've been successful in doing that. And thank you for you guys for having me here today. But that's one of the things, like doing that outreach. Again, I was in sales, so doing that outreach, reaching out to podcasts like yourself. Hey, do you guys? I would love to come on and talk about coaching, or come on and talk about ADHD. The other thing that I did as well to help myself get clients, again, thinking with that sales brain first, was reaching out to companies I used to work for. One of the things with me, with my own ADHD, was I would get a job. I would have that sort of that new car smell, that new effect, that just finding something new is just driving for someone with like a brain like mine. And I would get a job, it would go great, and then all of a sudden I would lose interest, or something would happen. And next thing you know, 3 years go by and I'm out looking for another job. And then same thing with that. It's going great, and then another job. So once I came to terms with my own ADHD, I decided to reach out to companies I used to work for and say, hey guys, I want to come in and talk to your employees. I don't want to sell you anything, but I want to come in and just bring some awareness to your employees about neurodiversity or ADHD in the workplace, and just tell them my own story. And that helped me get some clients as well. And it was a good idea. It was really helpful. But yeah, I'm still, other than that, I'm open to ideas. So I'd love to hear what's worked for you guys. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's a never ending thing. And, it's something I'm always trying to improve on as well.
Love it. Thanks for those ideas and tips. I think outreach is definitely one of those things that a lot of us as coaches forget we can do, and certainly forget that we should be doing. So I love that you could draw on your sales background and sort of weave that past career into this new emerging one. Hey, there's a lot of things that are changing in the world these days, and around coaching in particular. What are the things that are catching your attention, related to, directly or indirectly, this world of coaching that we're in?
I think the big like elephant in the room, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, is AI. Obviously,
Well, there's something about it,
Yeah, of course.
is AI. That's the elephant in the room. That's sort of where a lot of things are going, and I think it can be a very powerful tool in many ways. I've used it myself. It's been very powerful. I would still, specific to whether it's ADHD or just coaching in general, I think there's nothing better than that human connection, than that one-to-one connection with a coach, with a friend, with things like that. So, and in the book that I referenced earlier by Ned Hallowell, he goes through like 8 different things that you should be doing to help with your daily ADHD. Structure is a big part of it, but one of the things is human connection. And just so you guys know, medication is actually the last chapter, but so many people do it the opposite way and start with the medication and think that's going to fix them. But yeah, the human interaction, I do worry. I mentioned before this podcast, I have 2 children, 2 daughters. I know my older daughter, while she doesn't have an official diagnosis just yet, I do see the ADHD in her, and I do see that it has affected her. I'm also dyslexic. I learned years later as well for that, and that, but now a lot of that stuff, to sound cliche, kind of makes sense why I had a hard time keeping up with certain things, or why I would be nervous to read in front of the class. A lot of those things kind of came up for me. So I do worry the impact of AI on our children in the future, and like what's going to happen with that. So I would encourage people to still reach out and work with a coach and do that, um, as opposed to just always turning to AI now. I do worry that that's, if used the right way, I think it's an amazingly powerful tool. I've used it myself to help me with my own programming skills to build my application that I'm doing. I'm working on a mobile application called Dose around ADHD management, and so it's been extremely helpful in that. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where technology takes us.
So, well, you mentioned about AI, so you worry about your children and AI. What is specifically what you see that worry going with AI?
That's a good question. And it's kind of like it, and Erwin, I don't know if where you are age range, you're probably a little bit either around my age or a little bit older than me or younger. I'm not sure. Same with you, Steve. But despite my youthful appearance, I'm old. I'm in my 50s. I'm old.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'm there as well. So,
Okay. But so like when we were growing up, it was told if you watch too much TV, your brain's gonna rot. So I wonder, and then even after that, like you heard people, if they text too much, that things are gonna have, and I have seen that actually with texting and communicating with like the next generation on that. I do notice a difference there. So where I do wonder is because if AI was around when I was in high school and college, I probably would have never done my homework. I would have just sat down and had it do it for me. So I have no idea what that looks like today. I because my kids aren't my oldest is 10, so she's not quite there. But in high school, I would have turned to AI for everything. I'm just being honest. So that's my concern on that. Is it going to make it too easy to not figure out the problem yourself
hmm.
and to just turn to this all-knowing thing, which is great. It is great. Like I said, super helpful
Yeah, it is
for
great.
certain things.
It's that critical thinking, I think, what you mentioned, what you're going to is, I do have a problem. How do I solve it? And I see this with a lot, and certainly with my kids, is that, oh, I have a problem. Oh, I have a problem. I don't know how to solve it. So, well, listen, sit down and try to figure it out. And I think when you're going to say, hey, I have a problem, AI, I have a problem, solve it for me, that you're taking away that your critical thinking in your mind, which keeps your mind going and allows you to, when you have, because everybody encounters difficulties and challenges in life, that as a human
Yeah.
being, it is so important to be able to look at those challenges and problems and see how can I solve this, and then say, okay, AI, I got that specific problem. I think about this. I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Do I miss something? Because it allows you to think about broader and say, oh, you got something interesting, AI. What does that mean? How can I use this? But I think is what you're saying, and what I'm seeing is AI is a very great assistant that is going to help you, because and you've seen this, if you would be a business owner or in big businesses, well, you have secretaries in the past and say, hey, look this up, I need this information. But then at the end, you need to look at that information and go through and say what's important or not. So I see AI really good, and I think children need to learn, and I think schools are really important in that. So how do you use AI as a support, but that does not take away your critical thinking?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I heard recently on a podcast a software developer who went through an accelerator program called the Y Combinator program here in the States, in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a huge organization. And he talked about how what he assigns his son, who's like 11 or 12, is to build applications in AI. And I thought about that with my older daughter, as they start getting older, like, hey, is this something I could have them do? So I thought about that, like, hey, it's here. It's not going anywhere. It's probably not going anywhere. Just like they in 2000, while there was a crash on the World Wide Web, it's still here. Like we're here. We're talking on it. So that's one thing to face that reality. But how can I turn that so it assists us in that critical thinking? So that's a really good question, and that's going to be something that we're going to be faced with for the next, however many years we're here.
It's one of those things that strikes me as I'm listening to this conversation about AI is just the power of coaching, that human connection, the compassion, the empathy. And from what I see with your work, especially Steev, that lived experience and what's the word I want to look at? You've got a before and after around your diagnosis. You kind of got a sense of when you didn't have it, of what you did. I hear a large difference in self-acceptance and an even definition of identity that you've been on this journey. And there's something about that feels so much more than information. And with your passion to serve others on that journey, their journey, not your journey, but their journey that can also be informed by your journey, or at least that sense of not aloneness, which we can bring when we connect with humans. It just reminds me of the power of, when we get to connect with people, and as coaches, it's the basis of our work. It's not what we do, it's not what we bring, it's how we connect and what we co-create from there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. It's that delicate dance that we do with clients, and it's just there's nothing better than it, honestly. There's nothing better when you can turn off a session and know that the client, now you haven't solved their problems for them, and they might not even know what their problem, they might not even been able to solve their problems. But if they can have a little bit more clarity than they did when they first started talking to you, that's just it. There's nothing better than that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, thank you very much for spending some time with us today. For those that you've inspired some thought, a light bulb's gone off, that they love to connect more, how can people reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, I thank you so much, guys. Again, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you here today too. So a couple ways. One is follow me on Instagram, social media. I'm at Damn Healthy Dose. Again, using that turning that negative into a positive. So at Damn Healthy Dose. My website is damnhealthydose.com. Again, DAMN, damnhealthydose.com. Feel free to email me, steve@damnhealthydose.com. Also, I mentioned that I'm working on an application called Dose, just DOSE, and that is getdose.app. So getdose.app, and you can check that out. I have a waiting list right now. We have a working product. It's what they call the MVP, minimum viable product. It's just a sample one you can go through. There's 4 core areas that we have. We have one for strategic thinking that I like to call Spark. We have another area for emotional regulation called Wave, like riding that emotional wave. I've alluded to that popcorn machine. I have something called Popcorn on there, which is an idea capturing facility. And then my 4th one is the RSD meter around rejection sensitivity. So check that out. Sign up for the waiting list if you can. I'd love to get as many people as I can on that waiting list. It's free right now to try it out. But yeah, getdose.app. And I'd love feedback if anyone checks it out too.
Right. Thank you very much, Steve, for this interactive and interesting topic, and HDD, AI, business, and what else we've been talking about. Thank you for that, for sharing. Everybody else, thank you for listening in. And until the next episode, take care. And until then, thank you.
Thanks for
Bye.
tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.